Lesson 12-1, Mental Math, Percent. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to find a percent of a number by mental math computation. Here we have some percents that are equivalent to common fractions. If we take a look here, we have 2/4, which we know in our heads would equal 1/2. And if we have half of something, it's also known as 50% of something. So if I have half of a candy bar, it's 50% of a candy bar. 4/4 equals 1/2, which would equal 100%. I can also, since these are all denominators are 4, so they're fourths, I can also think of this as money. So 1/4 of a dollar is 1/4 of a dollar, and that's 25%. So these are just some examples of some common fractions that we have. Here we have another chart, and I just want you to take a look at the pattern of these percentages and common fractions. So if we take a look here, we have 10% equals 1/10 of the whole. 30% is 3/10. 50% would be 5/10, or if we reduce that, it equals 1/2, and so on. So if we take a look here at this pattern, this is of tenths. They're all tenths. We take a look here in the tens place, and that becomes our numerator. So here we have a 3, that becomes our numerator. And that works all the way down for 100% down here. So if we're asked to find 25% of 36, and that would equal n, we know that 25% actually equals 1/4. We can look up here at our chart, and that reminds us that 25% equals 1/4. And whenever we hear the word of, it means times. So we would use our multiply sign there. 36. We can put this over 1, and that will give us what that 25% of 36 equals. I can reduce down. 1 times 9 equals 9. So 25% of 36 would equal 9. If we're asked what's 40% of 35, we would take a look here at our chart, and we would see that 40% actually equals 2/5. So we would write 2/5, maybe, there we go, 2/5, and of means times, and we do 35 over 1. Now we can reduce this down, and then we multiply. 2 times 7 equals 14 over 1, which equals 14. So 40% of 35 equals 14. Here we're given a table with more percents and common fractions. And it's just something that you will need to, if you want to memorize it, that would be awesome. But otherwise, just knowing where to find it and having it written down so that way you can refer back to it as you're doing work would be the smartest thing. So we have like 2.5% equals 1/8. So it's just looking at these fractions and knowing what percentage each of them are. So again, I would just write them down in my notebook so that way I always have them and always have them handy for when I'm doing these problems. I want you to try figuring out what 12.5% of 16 is, and then come back and check your work against mine. So if I'm looking at this, I'll think 1/8 of 16, 12.5% equals 1/8. So 1/8 of 16, and that would equal 2. All right, I hope that's what you were able to get as well. Go ahead and rewatch any part of today's lesson before heading off to do today's assignment.